will come in the next month or two.
I should say at the outset, we are recording this, hoping to put it up on the NCSA website. And if I can figure out what I'm doing, maybe send it to you, although that didn't work too well on my test yesterday. So you'll probably have to go either to YouTube or the NCSA website. I would also ask that if you have any thoughts while we're chatting, because there's so many of us and we may not be able to get around to everybody, please send it in the chat, because there will be a transcript of the chat as well that we can share with everybody. So any thoughts you may have had about, upcoming commencement plans or anything as we discuss it, feel free to add more to the chat for us. Everybody knows how to do that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We did do a thing for our alumni because our alumni weekend was canceled. So, excuse me, through Atlantic Sportswear, designed a T-shirt, and they can order directly and have it shipped directly to them. So I think
we had received an email from them as well saying that they were setting up the virtual stores to accommodate something like that. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but it's certainly something to put in your pocket. Has anybody received those commencement box offers yet from any other vendor?
Yeah.
Some vendors that are putting together boxes that you can have them send out to your seniors that'll include things that they'll print for you, maybe a T-shirt, maybe a sign, stickers, whatever you choose to put in the boxes, as a way of either enhancing or supplementing for a commencement that everybody's going to feel really sad about. So, we haven't committed to doing anything like that, but I have received the emails for a few vendors. Any other thoughts about spring events that will not be?
So we had to cancel, everything, but we normally have Accepted Students Day in early April. But one thing we were able to do, because, this is Ginger, by the way, I'm sorry, this is Ginger at Miss Halls. One thing we were able to do, because we use another company to do our online store, the families could go shopping virtually. So that's been working really well.
Deerfield's been taking full advantage of our Facebook and website opportunities. Getting a lot. We have a good online store, so we've been getting a lot of messages out to people, and we've seen a huge uptick in the number of packages we would normally be sending out this time of year. So
that's good.
They're getting the message.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's events were canceled. How many are left with way too much merchandise you plan to get rid of during those events?
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Anybody have thoughts or plans for some of that merchandise? I know Deerfield had some specific spring merchandise we were going to offer for different reasons, and obviously that's not happening now, so we have to come up with plans for some of that stuff. Anybody have any thoughts about how much did you buy at NEBC, Erica?
Well, I didn't buy a ton, but I had already bought a lot at Tailgate.
Yeah.
Well, mostly for next year. I didn't buy a lot for spring, luckily. So, but I'm even a little hesitant about what I bought for next year, just not knowing, what's going to happen. But I had a lot of merchandise left right before the kids went on spring break, and anticipating that I would be able to sell through it during revisit days and some of the other spring events that we had. And obviously that's not happening. So I did go through a couple of weeks ago and took markdowns on quite a bit. And we have an online store. And so we've advertised the markdowns and sold through some things, but it's going to be a continual push all the way through spring and into summer. They did cancel our reunion event. So I'm going to try and do some promotion things with the alumni department as well to try and move some of this merchandise that we normally would have moved in person. So,
Deerfield's advancement office has a e-publication they send out monthly, and they offered to include the store website and our Facebook information in their e-newsletters, so we can get that out to our alums as well, since they won't be on campus for their alumni weekend. Anybody else have connections through, or thought about making connections through other departments? Your admission office may be looking to get rid of, or not get rid of, but be in contact with students that have been accepted and deposited, but I know they're all concerned about them actually showing up in the fall. So, you know, gifting always makes everybody happy. Doesn't hurt to reach out to admission or advancement to see if there's anything they're trying to do that you can be helpful with. So how many of you have student stuff left in dorms?
Oh, we do.
yeah.
Yeah, I think all of our students end up leaving in a hurry. And what's to become of all of the stuff in their dorms? The stuff that needs to be returned to IT, to the library, to athletics, all those textbooks. Anybody want to speak to buyback, if they're doing a virtual buyback, or how you're getting things back? I have somebody trying to get in and I can't seem to get him in. Hello? Josh? Josh, can you hear me?
I think we're in a bit of a unique situation. We have some students still on campus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. International?
Yes. Yeah, they couldn't get home.
Wow.
And so we've been working with Board of Health, and so anyway, so they're on site. We still have our RAs on site supporting them.
Wow.
Anyway, so
Feeding
with
them
respect,
too?
feeding, yeah, food's being delivered to their doors. Like when they came back from spring break, they were on full quarantine. So we had kind of one kid per room, per washroom, all the, right. And as per the Board of Health regulations. And yeah, so we're kind of working through that. But we're using our RAs to pack up the other kids' rooms and their stuff, and so that's going to help in that situation, just getting the rooms turned over, if you will.
Deerfield is planning to begin packing up dorm rooms next week. It's a very complicated process, full of all kinds of concerns. So it's expected to take quite a while. They've asked for volunteers from the people who are actually on campus to help with that, trying to mitigate the amount of people on campus. But the process of going through the rooms will probably have to be done while FaceTiming or video chatting with the student to know what's to go where. Some stuff can be packed up and stay till next year, and other stuff needs to be shipped, and stuff needs to go back where it came from. IT is looking for all their cameras.
Ooh.
Yeah. Anyone with course materials doing a virtual buyback? Anybody need to do a buyback or get textbooks back? We don't have textbooks, so that's not something we deal with.
I'm in limbo right now. We function a little bit differently. We switched over to a different process about a year or two ago and decided to essentially own all the textbooks that we utilize. So we don't necessarily do a buyback. Basically, at the end of the year, we just collect all the books back from the students. And so obviously this year, that makes that a little challenging. So I've had some discussions with some different people on campus about, okay, how do we go about doing that potentially, or do we even do that? And do we just sort of write it all off and say, let's just do digital, completely digital next year, not even knowing whether we're going to have all students back on campus or not in the fall. So I'm in limbo, unfortunately, right now. So if anybody else is kind of in the same boat, or trying to look at getting books back, I'd love to hear if anybody else has any suggestions or ideas. I've been trying to reach out to FedEx to find out some different pricing options about Smart Post and just what other options FedEx might have, but they're not very responsive, so I'm still waiting.
Kathy, are you there? Does Taft have any plans?
Peter usually handles that, and right now he does not have a plan in place. No, it's a bit of a
Still looking for ideas, I think.
Yeah,
Does Taft usually do a buyback on campus?
we do.
So we saw somebody recently, or heard a message from somebody recently who said they actually bought a bin of some kind on Amazon. Who was that, Maureen? And they were doing a virtual. Oh, because they actually had kids come back to campus to get their stuff, and most of us are not having kids come back to campus. So
we are, but I think that was posted on the NACS in the hub. Maybe I saw there were a couple stores that had done like drop bins.
That's
but
right. Yeah.
The kids are still in the middle of classes, so if some of our kids are coming back now to pack up rooms, like they're actually scheduling kids to come back on campus and pack up if they're regional and they want to make the drive back. But they're in the middle of classes, so it's not like you can have them leave their books right now, and they're certainly not going to come back, nor would we necessarily want them to come back at the end of May to drop their books. So
no, Deerfield's pretty adamant about not wanting anybody extra on campus for the foreseeable future. So that's why they are getting this plan to pack everything up, although it's kind of a logistical nightmare, frankly, to get it all together and then to have to ship it all. So yeah, 600 some kids and all their stuff.
That's a lot of kids to pack up.
It is.
I'm glad we're a small school.
We're
almost done packing, but I get to ship everything, so doing that. So I've been pretty busy with that. But
yeah. Has anybody? I'm sorry, Diane.
Maureen and I at Brunswick have been trying to work together because our kids take classes at both campuses, our upper school, and we've got to do book buybacks. We're a day school, so our last thought was sending a list out to upper school parents, specific books that we will take as returns, and then just putting a bin outside maybe where they can bag them with the list signed and they can drop them off, and I can leave them in the bin for a couple days before I even deal with them.
So this post that we had seen from, I forget who now, they had purchased something on Amazon, a deposit bin essentially, and he was having people leave their things in this bin. Every few days they'd go and get it, wipe everything down, and sanitize it so that it was safe for the workers to deal with it. But the bin was outside the store, so nobody was coming in the store.
Well, we have obviously the circle drop off, and I thought we'll just put it out there. Parents can drive up, take their bag, put it in the bin and back in their car and leave. And, we can just, if they've got their note in there with the books they're returning in their name, then I can do it after they've all dropped off.
Anybody else thoughts or concerns about spring or even into summer at this point?
Whether we're going to be open or not in the fall. Not to be.
That's the big question.
Moving on to fall, we're all still struggling with what happens next, for sure. Obviously, we don't have a magic mirror to check that out, but I know we've been asked, the Deerfield stores have been asked to investigate purchasing masks. I don't know how many others have been asked to do that.
We already have.
Yep. And the expectation is that everyone, students and employees, will be wearing masks when they return in the fall. And the school will provide those masks to everyone. It's not something that they'll need to purchase. They will be provided to them. So if anyone needs ideas or has other ideas for where to get masks, I know I've assembled a list of at least 5 places right now that I know of that are doing masks. And we're specifically looking at decorated masks because they figure if the students have to wear them, they might as well make them more entertaining than a paper mask, certainly. And we also know that students are terrible about keeping things clean and will definitely need more than one. So my expectation is we'll need a couple thousand of these reusable cotton masks for our campus. And then, of course, there's hand sanitizer. I know we weren't able to find any to restock in early March when we needed it. So has anybody been looking yet or had any success?
I haven't started looking yet.
Yeah.
But I had actually carried, long before this started, I had actually carried hand sanitizer from the Naked Bee. It's a great product. And then, you know, I mean, I would sell a little bit, but then of course, as soon as this happened, everyone came in and I got bought out. But if anybody's looking for more of a natural hand sanitizer, I don't know where they're at inventory wise, but I would highly recommend it. It's a really good product. So, and it's a smaller company, so I feel good about supporting them. So
yeah, for sure. For us, it was really an afterthought, a leftover from the last time viruses were a huge issue on campus. We just would carry a small amount of little hand sanitizers and we'd sell through, you know, a couple of dozen a year. And then of course we sold through that many in a week and weren't able to get any more. So we will be looking for new sources. And if anybody has thoughts, throw something in the chat or send a message out to me or others. I can make sure and get those resources up on the NCSA page. Everybody's going to be looking.
120. The last 2 weeks of school, we sold 120 of our hand sanitizers. We're
Yeah.
lucky to have that in. So we just thought we'd do a general reorder for fall, you know, and double our normal order, but we'll see if it's available.
I actually had a parent contact me after she'd seen a hand sanitizer in her son's backpack to see if anything we had could be sold on our website. We didn't have any at that point, but the people were desperately looking for it. So
Right.
Anybody given any thought or starting to think about rearranging your stores? I know all of our stores are not that big, so that may be a challenge. But does anybody here just have a window or a counter? Ginger, you have a store now,
Yeah,
right?
I have a store now. I wanted to show you guys, but I'm not at work today. I so wanted to show you my store.
Yeah, we have a window.
Elizabeth, you have a window. Anybody else?
Yeah.
The rest of us have an actual store people go into.
yeah.
Perhaps not as big as many of our university friends have, but are you starting to think about how you can change the flow or any of that for the start of school?
Yeah, my store is so tiny and has a slightly odd configuration, so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to deal with that. The only thing that I had thought about was whether or not it's worth it to get one of those plexiglass barriers, basically, that you're seeing now in grocery stores and gas stations and places like that. So I don't know. I haven't had a discussion yet with my boss or anybody else to see what their thoughts are. But beyond that, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to work with social distancing in a small space.
Is anybody's in a separate building? Deerfield's is in a separate building. Everybody else is yours, like a room in another building?
Mhm.
So you could have people wait outside and come in a few at a time if you wanted to limit the number of people at the store.
Yeah.
We could do that in one of our stores, but not in the other, so not really sure. And our space is, again, awkwardly set up for trying to keep small numbers of people there. So yeah, it's going to take some thinking.
Yeah, I had a long call with our business manager late last week, and we're actually considering things as drastic as not allowing students to come into the stores. Just, that really teachers would come in to grab a set of books or something that they would need for their classroom, but potentially not allowing students to come in, and then allowing parents to come in and shop for clothing or whatever, maybe by appointment only.
Wow.
Just because I'm not saying it will end up being that way, but that was a possibility that was tossed out. And that we would buy, we would agree on certain things that we would just stock every classroom with, papers, pens, pencils, math, whatever, for specific subjects. And so that the kids, they won't be able to buy their favorite pen in the bookstore, but they'll have a pen in the classroom if they need a classroom. They're just concerned. We have 2 stores, but they're both very, very small. And I sort of can't even wrap my head around how we literally can have one person in the store. And they're both off of very busy corridors. So the last thing they want are kids congregating, waiting to get into the store. So it's kind of discouraging.
And I've also heard similar thoughts from administration about maybe the store is not open. So then we need to be creative about how we are able to get rid of our merchandise and meet the needs of the school community. So how many of you belong to NACS anymore? Anyone? Erica, you do?
Yeah.
Diane, you do?
Yep.
Yes.
Kathy, you do. So you will find some resources on the NACS pages if you haven't been there yet that may be useful, because universities are already planning for these things. And some of our other prep schools actually have been posting there as well, but be sure and check out the NACS resources to see if anything, gets your creative juices flowing. NCSA is also going to be doing a group meeting, webinar, whatever you want to call it, in the near future, and hopefully we'll have a chance to do some more brainstorming with universities and colleges involved. Some of them may have some relevant thoughts for us too. It's just going to be, keeping your ear to the ground and thinking ahead, because it's definitely going to be a challenge for everybody this fall. We always worry about meeting the community needs. What are the community's most basic needs? Maybe a t-shirt isn't, but for somebody it might be. So yeah, it's not just pencils and papers and textbooks.
Okay.
Some of our administrators may think that that's, not as important, but when they find out how much inventory we have left that is just sitting there, they may want us to get creative. Speaking of inventory, has anybody been asked to cut back on purchasing or any kind of moratorium on purchasing?
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Everybody, okay.
Has anyone heard from any vendors whether or not they're going to have delays over the summer for production time or anything like that? I'm just curious if we can actually expect to get our deliveries in the time frame that we originally scheduled with the vendors, or if they're going to have to add, 2 to 3 weeks because maybe they're working on skeleton crews.
I haven't heard from vendors in particular, but some of the other staff at Deerfield has expressed similar concerns for supplies they need to purchase. And we've been advised to make sure we get out there and order stuff that we know we have to have starting now, because those delays are going to happen when everybody comes online at once and tries to order the same merchandise. could end up in a queue of people trying to get it. And we're the
Yeah,
small
true.
people. We're not going to get at the top of the list when they can, ship out 1 million of something to a university.
Right.
It also may be an opportunity for us to look at some smaller suppliers, maybe more local suppliers as opposed to something coming from China. Yeah, be creative. If you find something that seems useful and reasonable, share with the rest of us, because we're all doing the same thing, trying to source similar merchandise or find decent suppliers. I expect that when NCSA has the group meeting, there will be vendors on that webinar or group meeting, because there's quite a lot of vendors that are members. And I expect to hear what their thoughts are in terms of their supplying options. I mean, I hadn't even thought about going out and getting hand sanitizer and masks yet, knowing how much of a struggle it is for everybody who needs that stuff right now to be getting it. But, getting in the queue at least and saying this is when I need it, maybe is the smart plan. So we know we'll have it in early August.
Yeah.
I feel like I just got an email from ES Sports about masks.
I did not get one from ES Sports, but I've got one.
Alan Levine, they do have them.
Yeah.
They're cotton, like t-shirty kind of material in several colors that they can imprint. That's actually, we ordered some from them. The other vendor that has a good, sort of an interesting but different product is League, L2 is doing those like ones that you kind of put around it's more like
around your ear thing.
Yeah, it's like a pull-up thing.
Yeah.
But they're sublimated, so you can, and we think that, we're an all-boys school. We think that some of the boys will prefer wearing something like that, that's more like a bandana kind of thing in a ring, as opposed to a cotton mask. So we're ordering some of those as well.
Just this morning, I got an email from Vantage. I don't know if anybody does anything with Vantage. They have, they're offering them as well. Spirit Products has several 3-layer polypropylene versions that kind of have a cutout for your ear as opposed to an elastic. I'm not sure about those, but they have 3 layers and they must have some kind of extra special properties. Spirit, I said that. Jardine has several cotton options. Cape Cod Belts is doing a different.
Yeah, they are doing one as well.
I haven't seen pictures of those yet. He keeps telling me he's going to send them, but he's got his sewers out there working on some prototypes and samples. He actually suggested them to us as an option for graduation. Even if our students aren't on campus, this is kind of going to define this particular senior class, the 2020 graduates. The graduation or the seniors from the quarantine era. So the idea of a commemorative, I wouldn't call it that, but mask with the ribbon. They do those ribbons. I don't know if everybody knows Cape Cod Belts. They have a ribbon that's embroidered with your logo on it. So their masks are going to have a logo on it, a ribbon logo on it. So that's another option. There's going to be a lot more. I'm pretty sure any apparel manufacturer is going to, if they haven't already, retooled to do some kind of mask, you're going to start seeing those. So share those resources with the rest of us as you find them.
There was an email I got last week about free social distancing decals for your floor. And I replied to that. And when you click on the link, it took you to the site and you didn't have options to buy any. It was just kind of fill this form out. So in the memo field, I asked about purchasing more and they said, well, we'll send you 2. So whatever company that was, I can put it in the, I can send it.
We were on a webinar last week, Bree and I, and they had offered them free to whatever schools wanted them. We decided not to get them because honestly, the store is too small to set up with things like that on the floor. But if you have something inside another building where you could set it up outside of your store, that's actually useful. So,
well, my facilities department wanted to see them as well, so that's why I got 2. We do have, I mean, I do have enough space that I could put them by the register, but it doesn't make sense if everybody's shopping the store anyway. So it was just kind of to get a look at them and see what they look like. But anyway, this company sent them out right away and sent me an extra set.
Have you already received them?
No, I haven't been in yet, but I'm going to go in tomorrow, and I think
So,
they're there.
Diane or Bree, if either of you can remember the name of the vendor, if you'd put it in the chat or
Yep.
send it later, that'd be great.
I think it's Color Shock.
Yeah,
That
pretty
sounds
sure it
great.
was Color
That
Shop.
sounds great.
Yeah.
Color Shop. That was it.
CDI, yes. CDI is putting them out.
Yep.
Has anyone's school, Elizabeth, you might want to speak to this as well, been thinking about or planning for international students for the fall? Recognizing that they may not be able to get visas to return, or we're going to be also doing virtual classrooms to include our international students.
Yeah, they're talking about that kind of thing right now, talking about getting creative with the timetable, making sure that there might be specific classes at specific times, which will correspond better with overseas. And yeah, so I mean, it's early days as far as figuring out what on earth to do for the fall. You know, it's time to really get creative and out of the box thinking. And how do you keep your school? You know, I mean, there are so many questions about admissions and all of that. You just got to offer something so that you've got a product for people to buy into.
Yeah, so we were thinking about that either this morning or yesterday, the idea that the campus, when the students do return to campus, and we expect that they will return to campus this fall, they will not be allowed off of campus. They will not be allowed to go into town. They won't be able to go to the mall. They won't be able to go to the movies. They won't be able to do a lot of the things that they've traditionally done, which is going to be shocking for teenagers who are used to being able to do fun things. But in the interest of keeping them healthy, Deerfield's not going to let them off campus.
Yeah.
So related to that, could this be an opportunity for our stores to come up with something that we haven't done before that may enhance their out of school living experience? Maybe, I don't know about a day school or not, but certainly for those who live in the dorms. If you haven't carried board games before, is this a chance to start carrying board games? Or, you know, this is great thinking time.
Oh, this is Ginger from Miss Halls. I did early on before students went on their March break, I did bring in board games like Jenga and stuff like that. We kind of had a little social distancing kind of party in this little store area. And then I did a scavenger hunt with all the products, since I wasn't selling the snacks. And so I did when there were still about 80 students on campus, I did a scavenger hunt with the snacks around when the weather was nice outside. And so that was a good way to get rid of my snacks that I wasn't going to sell. And then also they had fun with it. The ones who wanted to venture out and try it had fun. So, and they got to keep the candy. So.
Related to that, anybody else trying to get rid of excess expiring food inventory? Have you got any thoughts about that, Erica?
Yeah, I'm actually going in Thursday to write it all out of stock, anything that's going to expire before the start of the next school year, and just give it to our maintenance department. So that's what we have 2 other food locations on campus, and that's what the manager of those locations has been doing as well. She's basically been feeding the maintenance people that are still working on campus, maintenance and housekeeping. So they're going to get some really good stuff, because I've got Ritter Sport candy bars and really nice cookies. So
I know right after this happened, our dining hall needed to get rid of a lot of stuff as well. And so there were a lot of donations made to local food pantry and other places that could use it. But I was going to suggest if anybody has excess snack stuff laying around, your first responders or local medical professionals would probably enjoy the treat, and you could write them off that way.
Great idea.
Right. I'll tell you a funny story. Right after spring break, the kids didn't come back and hadn't known they wouldn't be coming back. So of course, dorm rooms were left with garbage in them, fish to be fed, and of course, a lot of snack foods and stuff that just weren't going to get used. So Deerfield did go through all those rooms and collect all of the expiring or soon to expire food products that were in there, and anything that was decent enough was donated to the local food pantry.
Oh, that's good.
And I have to tell you, it filled up the bay in the dining hall.
Mhm.
I mean, these kids probably go to BJ's with, you know, their parents or something and come back with big boxes worth of stuff. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, we're all going to have some expiring stuff we need to get rid of before it's too late. So your people remaining on campus would appreciate it, or anybody else local. If you can't get it to them, then let somebody on your campus know it's available.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's all the questions that were submitted to me or that we had thought of ahead of time. Does anybody else have something that you wanted to talk about with the group today, or share with us about something you've been doing from afar? Anybody want to do this another time?
Sure.
Maybe, yeah, it might be a good idea to maybe do this again in a month, because I'm sure a lot will
Yeah,
have changed
people are
by
going
then, and maybe some of us will have clearer pictures of where our schools stand with things, and it might be a good time at that point to share ideas.
Does everybody have commencement before Memorial Day, or anybody after that?
before?
Or
Typically it's after, but it's not happening, so.
No, I understand that. I figure they're going to have some kind of official plan in place before our actual commencement date, so that they can say, I'm sorry, we can't get together now. This is what we're doing. Okay. I will put together another opportunity. I know there were a number of people who wanted to join us today who couldn't anyway. So it'd be a great opportunity for them to participate. Thank you all for your time. If you have other thoughts, please share with either me or with other people here. If you share with me, I'll make sure it gets out in the resources section of NCSA, if nothing else. Almost all of you are NCSA members. If you're not currently a member, you will be through June 30th. After that, it's up to you what you choose to do, but it would be lovely to be in touch with all of you on a regular basis. We were the guinea pigs for NCSA. They're going to try and have other regional groups get together virtually. So I think it's a good thing to put a face with a name. It's nice to see some of you that I've not had the opportunity to meet before. And I hope we have a chance to meet again another time.
Definitely.
Be well,
Thanks
everybody.
Thank you very
thanks for
much.
organizing, Sandy.
Sandra,
Thank you very much.
enjoy your day.